What is going on, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It is time for another Nick at Night, my weekly non-spoilery comic book review show. I'm going to go over the books I read this week, tell you what I thought about them. You don't want to miss that. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to Nick at Night. Do me a favor, if you haven't subscribed yet, go down below and hit that subscribe button. I really would appreciate that. And we're going to go ahead and get started with the big two. We're going into Marvel first. We're starting off with Hulk. This is issue number 6, Donny Cates and Ryan Ottley. Now, I know a lot of people were kind of like, what the heck's going on with this whole spaceship Hulk kind of thing? I've been digging the story. It's a very big departure from what we had from the previous run. But I've been kind of digging the absurdity. I've been digging the art. I like the concepts. It's interesting. And this is our big, like, Hulk's Hulk, the Titan reveal in this book. Ultra bloody, ultra gory. We do have a reveal. We do have a little battle. We have some kind of conclusion. We know where we're headed. We have a Thor event coming up pretty soon. So it is pretty interesting. Do we get a whole lot of answers? Not necessarily, but we do get some hints of what might be coming up in the future runs. And maybe we'll see this character again. Maybe Titan will come back eventually. We do get to see what level 9 looks like in the engine room. So that is pretty cool. And it's just as absurd as you think it would be. So I did enjoy this book a lot. There's a lot of cool things going on in here. Again, the art's incredible. The story's pretty interesting too. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of confusing little concepts here and there, but I think overall it does really work. Now I will say that the whole Titan character, he kind of comes and goes pretty quickly. We didn't know this character existed until maybe an issue or two ago, and it was kind of hinted that something is building up, right? Does kind of come and go pretty quickly. And so that's kind of my only critique about this one right here. It almost feels like maybe this first arc is kind of like a filler arc for something bigger, something more grand. And then, of course, now we're getting a Thor tie-in, so we'll see how they can manage that. You know, is it just coming out because we got a trailer? We have a movie coming out soon. Who knows what the intention is there, but I am looking forward to it. It should be cool. Donny Cates on both of those titles. So we'll see how that little crossover, that little mashup, how that is handled. So Hulk issue number 6, not too bad. It's just as absurd as the previous ones. We do get that awesome little Titan reveal in here, and we get to learn a little bit more about that. So that was pretty cool. If you haven't checked it out, I would. All right, we're going to jump over into kind of a book that I picked up on a whim. I first got it because of the Alex Ross cover, but we have Captain America issue number 0. And again, I just picked it up because of the cover, because that is a beautiful, beautiful cover with Cap just like holding his shield. You don't quite know what's falling on top of him, but it's just like fiery debris and just awesomeness. So it's got that great, great art style there. A new era begins here. So they weren't kidding. Man, the interior art in this book is absolutely gorgeous as well. I do love that. This reminds me of World's Finest from DC a couple weeks ago. Where basically you have these like classic characters, you're putting them in classic situations, you're kind of taking them out of continuity, kind of just boiling them down into like the core, into their essence, right? And just being really nostalgic. This book reminds me of that too. We have Cap, we have Sam Wilson. They're both like back and forth calling each other Cap, and they're both super, super humbled by the fact that they're, you know, in each other's presence. So I thought that was pretty cool. And they're taking on a classic threat. I'm not going to go into details about who it is. It's a really generic classic threat. I think they handled it pretty well too. This feels like a one-shot. It reads like a one-shot. So they introduce a threat. The guys come in, they clean up everything, they take care of the problem, and then they move on to the next thing. So it is self-contained in that part. But again, the art is phenomenal in this book. Definitely takes center stage on here. And it's very, very action-packed. Lots of stuff going on. It's like a split action scene between Cap, between Sam. And so I really do like the way that the book was handled. I love the pacing, tons of action. And it's a cool little reminder about how fun these characters can be when they're with each other. And we get a little hint about what might be coming later. There's a few other titles that are coming out soon related to Captain America. I believe they're different creative teams though, so we'll see how they're handled. But I'm definitely going to be following this creative team going forward to see what other kinds of work that they put out. Pleasantly surprised by this one of my favorite books of the week. So that was it with Marvel. We're going to hop over into DC next, starting with Wonder Girl, Trials of the Amazon, issue number 2. This one kind of fell a little flat for me. So we have the old Wonder Girl, Cassie, I believe it is. She's trying to like play Sherlock Holmes. She's trying to figure out who committed this crime, who committed this murder, where were you, where was this person, trying to convince the other Amazons that somebody did the deed, right? And it was kind of confusing. Didn't really quite know what was going on. There's a bigger plot. There's something kind of emerging, something that's been well protected, something that the Amazons fear, and it's kind of emerging right now. So we're gonna have a bigger, broader plot coming forward soon. I don't quite see the point of how they executed this whole thing just yet. Joelle Jones on the art, I think it looks great. I do really appreciate that. I feel like this whole thing is really muddy. The whole Amazonian thing is very, very muddy right now. I liked Yara Flora. I liked how they introduced her. Of course, we liked Diana as well. But I think there's just so many players now. There's so many things to pay attention to. There's so many players. The stories aren't that strong just anymore. And so, I don't know. I'm just kind of falling flat on these for right now. I was enjoying Yara Flora. That seemed like a pretty interesting run, but they went ahead and cut that. They squeezed it in here. And, we'll see what the future holds for Wonder Girl. Not entirely sure. Was kind of disappointed on this one, but I'm sure some of you diehard Wonder Girl fans, Wonder Woman fans will enjoy this, and you'll know a whole lot more than I did going into this book. But it just didn't do it for me. It's kind of like a murder mystery, but it had this other kind of threat that emerged towards the end, and it seemed kind of confusing. Maybe you need to read the other Wonder Woman series in like Nubia and things like that to kind of really understand this. But if you're reading just Wonder Girl and you jump into this one, you might be thinking, what the heck's going on? Like I was. So didn't quite hit the mark for me this week. All right, we mentioned the first issue of this run just a little bit ago. This is World's Finest, issue number 2 from Mark Waid. And we have Mora on the art and Bond Villain on here as well. Again, just a great, great classic feel with the characters. And we're throwing in Doom Patrol in this as well, which is a really fun little element to add to this mix. So again, they're taking classic characters, they're taking them out of continuity, they're putting them in this kind of like, not super original story, but it's executed pretty well, like an old ancient threat that took over the world a long time ago, was like somehow suppressed and is building its way back out into reality. And so our team here has to kind of do some investigations, figure out what's going on, and that's exactly what they do in this issue. I will say they introduced a few more characters in this issue, and I couldn't have been more happy about the addition, especially since they portrayed them and drew them very similar to how I've seen them more recently, and I did like how that turned out. I won't spoil exactly who that is, but I totally dug it. I like the banter between the characters in this book as well. That was pretty fun. A lot of the who's better than who kind of banter is in this book, which I thought was great. Some history between some different characters. A little bit of time travel, maybe, here and there. It is a pretty fun book. I did really like how it was executed, and I am looking forward to reading all of these, because this has been just a really, really fun book so far. World's Finest number 2, one of the better books. All right, a book that's like barely hanging on right now, honestly, is Catwoman number 42. If it wasn't for the interior art and these Jenny Frison covers, I don't think I'd be reading this book going forward. Again, I don't really like the ideas of where this book is going right now. We have all these local gangs trying to like figure out if they want to kill Catwoman because she's being a pain in the ass and like ruining their plans. And, she's protecting all the girls that are working for these evil corporations and these evil mobsters and stuff like that. Great. I like that, but I just don't like how it's been executed so far. But again, the interior art is just really, really good. I feel like the quality has gone down since the beginning of Teeny Howard's run, though, and Leon's run on this book. I feel like the quality's gone down a little bit. If you compare the first time that they kind of came on board with this new arc versus now, I feel like there's a definite shift in the quality and the art style. Not really sure if they had more time to do that first issue, and then the other ones they didn't make maybe didn't have enough time to kind of do, and they rushed it. Not entirely sure. I will also say that on Jenny Frison's Instagram, she has like a better version of this cover right here where you can see more detail, and that is a really cool thing. I wish they could have done something with the printing on this cover here, because you're losing a lot of that detail that she put in the cover. So check that out if you haven't already. But with that being said about the interior art, there are moments where it definitely stands out that they had a little bit more time. The art style, it seems like impossible to me how they were able to accomplish some of the stuff with the shadows and the lighting and things like that. Just very, really, really unique art in this book. So that really helps out a lot, and it kind of helps pull the story, I think. They take care of one of the bosses that's kind of been ruining Catwoman's time right now. They take care of him in a really weird, kind of like satisfactory way, I guess. But we'll see. We'll see what happens going forward. We do have a little bit of a hint at where the story is going to go from here. So, man, we're going to stay on board at least for the covers, at least for the cover's sake. But I really need the story to kind of pick it up a little bit. But, you know, it's been okay. All right, the last DC book we read this week was The Nice House on the Lake. This is issue number 8 from James Tynion IV. And I think this is a kind of issue I needed to kind of reel me back in, because I feel like it's been rinse and repeat. And although this book is very much rinse and repeat compared to the other books that have come out recently. So I think we're all on the high of the idea at play here, the characters, how they were interacting, their reaction to what's happening in the world around them, them kind of learning the rules of their environment. That was all really intriguing. And then we had kind of like this reset right before the break, and we came back in March, I believe. So now all the characters are kind of like relearning some things, trying to expand, trying to test the boundaries of their environments. And we still get this like weird personal exploration for each character in the first few pages, and it's kind of woven through the story about how they know Walter, some of the idiosyncrasies that they might have that Walter appreciated, helps build a relationship on every single character so far. So it has been fun. It's a cool character deep dive, kind of like a study on each character, which is fun to do. But I feel like that hard reset we got halfway through the season, or halfway through this run, kind of like pushed the story back a little bit just when it was getting really interesting. They learned a few things they probably shouldn't have learned, and things got hard reset. And now we're kind of back at square one, like rehashing the same kinds of conversations we had previously. Now he does take this time to explore more characters and to introduce you to more backgrounds and things like that, which is cool. The art's really fun. I feel like there's a couple little confusing elements here and there. I feel like certain characters shouldn't be interacting with certain characters based on what I remember from the first part of this run. So maybe I'm missing a couple key components about who knows what and why Walter's there and why that's cool for him to be there. Again, it probably has to do something with that hard reset, but I might have to go back and flip through or reread this as a trade. I bet it would read as a trade really, really well, just because then you can kind of keep all the pieces in line in your head as you're going through it. So Nice House on the Lake, book number 8, not too bad. I think it piqued my interest a little bit more. And yeah, I'm excited to keep going with this book for sure. I just wish it didn't do that hard reset a little while ago. All right, we got a couple Image books to go into next. We have Slumber, number 2. And I picked this one up because number 1 was just interesting enough for me to keep going. The basic premise is there's this guy who invented a way for its strike team kind of a situation to go into your nightmares to kill your demons, kill your nightmares while you sleep. And the strike team, though, comes with a lot of baggage. They have their own personal dramas. They have their own tragedies in their lives. They have their own objectives. They're trying to chase down this notorious nightmare that seems to be possessing people, taking their bodies over, and they're murdering people without them really realizing it. And so these kind of nightmare killers, nightmare hunters are out on the hunt for this person that's invading all these dreams. So interesting premise. Artwork is really crazy too. It's kind of like cartoonish, but with a lot of expression, and just a really interesting way of doing it. I'll see if I can find an appropriate panel to kind of share right here. I think this would be okay. So interesting art style, a lot different than what I've been reading lately in some books. So it has been kind of fun. It has a main character who's intriguing. She's got her personal demons. She's got like this voice in her head too, this thing that she can see, this little guy that walks around carrying like some supplies and stuff for her, but he's a demon form. And there's some fun things that they do with that. Her perception of reality right now is a little bit warped because she's been in dreamland so long, I think. She's kind of like seeing things that aren't necessarily there. Maybe she's perceiving things that others don't. And so that's an interesting thing to throw into this whole mix as well. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like a detective story too. You have the police trying to go out, trying to solve these murders. And we have this one police officer who's kind of in too deep right now and reaching out to her and this guy who invented this methodology of taking care of nightmares, trying to get their assistance, trying to get their help, and trying to understand what exactly is going on with all these possessed people. So interesting premise, fun art style, not too bad. It's just like a fun book so far. Issue number 2, we'll see how far it goes. We'll see how long it can keep our attention. Then the last book we read this week was Ice Cream Man, issue number 29. Whew, man. Okay, so this book was great. This was a great issue of Ice Cream Man. Pretty straightforward, much more straightforward, I think, than some other ones. And I don't know what that says about me, but this one basically is a man has died and he's left a will that he wrote personally, and it's going through all the different artifacts that he has, some of the demons that he has, some of the well wishes that he has about the people in his life that he left behind. And it's interesting. This man clearly was crippled by like anxiety and depression and addiction and everything else. And they explore that in his family. They explore some of the things, some of his prized possessions, and how he's going to pass them on to different people in his life and the reasons why. And there's a friend involved here too, who's kind of like mourning his loss and exploring his past as well in a really abstract, weird way. So man, this book, there's just a lot going on here, and it's actually told through the usage of his eulogy. Basically, there's nobody there. He's got an open casket, and we have the ice cream man reading off his will. So it's super spooky. It's really creepy. It's a very interesting book. It's way more straightforward and not as abstract as previous Ice Cream Man issues have been. So this one will be a little bit easier to dive in. And I think because it's easier to dive in, it can probably connect to more people more easily. And so this one might make you think. This one might make you think. It definitely made me think a lot. Ice Cream Man 29 was a great read this week. So guys, that's what I read. That's what I enjoyed. I appreciate you watching. Leave me some comments down below. What were your favorite books? What did you think about these books? Did you have anything you might wanted to add to my reviews here? Anything I missed maybe in these books? I would really appreciate that. Go down below, like, subscribe, share, hit that bell notification to be notified of future videos. I appreciate you watching as always. We'll see you in the comments.